Welcome to the Commonwealth Policy Center's Candidate Forum. This is where we let you know about the candidates, why they're running for office, and where they stand on the important issues. Hi, I'm Richard Nelson, founder and executive director of the Commonwealth Policy Center, and your host for this program. Joining us for this forum is candidate for State House District 45, Thomas Jefferson. Thomas and his family have been longtime members of Southland Christian Church in Lexington, where Thomas has served for an usher for 21 years. He's had a long career in finance and sales, and he and his wife now enjoy volunteering in community efforts, particularly student mentorship programs. Thomas, welcome to this candidate forum.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, hey, this is, as I mentioned, an opportunity to introduce yourself to the voters in your district. Of course, House District 45 is a portion of the Lexington area. There is an incumbent in office, Killian Timoney, and you have chosen to run for that seat. So I guess the first question is why are you running for office to serve in the State House?
Well, I'm running to protect our kids. What's happening in our schools and how my opponent voted in the most recent history is really concerning to me. So I want to be able to make sure that if they go to public schools, we know what they're being taught, make sure DEI is not being introduced into the classroom, and monitor what books are being offered to our children. There's some really bad books that are in our public schools and our public libraries that are, in my opinion, pornographic, and basically trying to groom our children. So all I want to do is make sure that we have opportunities for the parents to have transparency in the school system, and I'm 100% behind school choice.
So your opponent, Killian Timoney, I believe has been in there 2 terms, I want to say. He is a public educator. He would say that he cares for the kids too. He's devoted his life to education and to kids. How would you now you'd mentioned that you would vote differently. There was a bill that you alluded to, Senate Bill 150, which would have banned the teaching of gender ideology in K through 12 public school classrooms. Your opponent voted against that bill. That bill also banned minors who have gender dysphoria from pursuing puberty blockers, hormone therapy, gender mutilation surgeries. He voted against that as well. Is that what you're talking about as far as protecting our kids and keeping out things out of the public schools that are not right for kids, not healthy for kids?
Right. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not trying to disparage Killian personally. He's a nice man. I've met him a few times, but he votes poorly. You mentioned Senate Bill 150. There was another bill that he voted against that would protect girls' sports from boys playing in them. He voted against the school choice option that we had on the floor there. Again, my daughter's a school teacher. And I love school teachers. I think what they do is absolutely amazing. But in a way, there's a lot of teachers that are trying to go far left and far progressive, and a family needs to have that option to go ahead and take that SEEK money because it's our tax dollars anyway. We spend $17,000 a year in Fayette County per student for them to attend public schools. $4,200 of it is SEEK money, and that follows the student if they go from, just say, Lafayette High School to Dunbar High School. All I want is that SEEK money to be able to follow the student no matter where they want to go, whether they want to be homeschooled, whether they want to go to a Catholic or a Christian school, whether they want to go to a charter school. I want to empower our parents to say, you know what, my child doesn't fit in their curriculum, or it's not the right fit for us, period, or we don't like what's being taught, and be able to use part of our tax dollars to help them fund outside schooling.
Thomas, is school choice one of your top issues? Is this the issue that has prompted you to run for office?
It's the main issue, yes. I think school choice, and also to stop Killian from voting against our kids. I mean, again, he votes poorly, and I don't know how a school teacher that he used to coach girls track, and but why would you go ahead and vote against allowing boys, stopping boys from participating in girls sports? I don't understand that, and I have two daughters. My one daughter played a fast pitch softball. She's 4'10". I can't imagine some 6 foot kid coming in and playing against her. It's I have to be I have to say she's 4'10" and a half. She would be mad if I didn't say the half. So
Sure, sure. There's certainly not unfair competition when you put boys and girls on the playing field together, especially in the high school years where there's a disparity in the size, strength, and whatnot of the players. Of course, you're referring to Senate Bill 283 that was passed in 2022, received bipartisan support in the House and Senate, but your state representative Killian Timoney voted against that bill. Uh, Thomas, I want to go back to something you said about pornographic books being in public schools. Is this something that you've confirmed? Of course, you're in Lexington, the second largest school district in the state. Have you confirmed that there are pornographic books in Lexington public school libraries?
I have confirmed that it was in Jessamine County. I have not confirmed in Fayette County. Jessamine County. One of my friends went to the uh, went to the library, public library, and checked it out. And then she says, "I'm not returning it." She goes, "I'll pay the penalty no matter what it is, but I just don't want kids to have access to it."
So, just to clarify, are you talking about the public library or the public school library?
The public library itself. But so I understand, and again, I've been told this by many people that are close to the school system, that there are books that are almost pornographic that are available. Now, I'm not trying to say in elementary school by any means, but in high school. And it's and kids are formidable at that age as well, and we need to protect them and make sure that if their parents feel it's necessary for them to have these type of books, they can get on Amazon and get them in 2 days. I don't want our tax dollars being spent on grooming books.
Just for the record, it has been confirmed that pornographic books have been found in Jefferson County middle school, public school libraries. And parents did speak out against that. They tried to convince the Jefferson County School Board to pull those books. That has not happened, but it did prompt legislation last General Assembly session that would give recourse to parents who objected to those kind of books being available in the school libraries. That bill originally had some teeth in it in the beginning, was watered down, but this is still an issue in many of our public schools across the state where there are objectionable books that promote homosexuality. The one book in the middle school library in Jefferson County actually promoted adult child sex, very graphic. I had a chance to see part of that, one of the books that were in question. Thomas, I want to ask you this: how do you respond to people who say we should make this available to anybody who wants it? And if you're opposed to this, you are for censorship. You are a book banner. That is what conservatives are charged with today and accused of. You're for banning books. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'm not for banning books. I just don't want tax dollars to pay for them, is what I say. I mean, parents are more than welcome. We don't want that book not being sold nationwide. Let them buy it at Amazon or any other bookstore if they feel it necessary for their child to see that book. But I don't think our tax dollars should be spent on books like that basically groom our kids.
Very good. What are other issues that you're concerned about? You said school choice is a motivating issue for you, one of your top issues, if not the top issue. What are some other top issues that are of concern, issues that you would tackle if you were elected to State House District 45?
Well, I mean, excessive spending. It's even though the Republicans have a super majority, we're spending way too much. In my opinion, what we're the latest budget that was proposed and passed, it's a huge increase, and there's no give and take here. So, in my opinion, when you go ahead and want to spend more in some program or in a new program, that money needs to be found in another program and and counterbalanced that way.
How would you define a successful term? Again, Thomas, you're running in the Republican primary for State House District 45. That primary election day is May the 21st. Early voting, I believe, starts on the 17th of May. How would you, if you are elected, how would you define a successful term in office? Of course, it's a 2-year term, so you'd have 2 sessions to address the issues of concern for you.
Well, I'm not gonna vote to try to get reelected. I'm not up there to make big friends. I'm going to be friendly. I'll listen to all ideas, but I'm going to vote my conscience and my faith, and I will represent the 45th district the way that I believe they want to be served.
You were endorsed by the Jessamine County Republican Party. Of course, there are a handful of precincts in Jessamine County that is in the 45th district, but they endorsed you, which is unusual in a Republican primary. How did you respond to that endorsement?
Well, I mean, it was an honor that they did that. I believe it's the first time they've ever done that. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I understand. And it just shows you that they want change in the Republican Party. They want a true Republican that will vote in a conservative fashion.
You were also endorsed by Stan Cave, the former state representative, I believe, from that district, if not there, somewhere in the Lexington area. So Stan Cave has endorsed you as well. I noticed there was another endorsement on your website. A CEO of a large company endorsed you. Are there any other endorsements that I'm missing?
Not right now. I've been trying to concentrate on knocking on doors because Killian's raised a lot of money and he's going to throw a lot of advertising at my district. So I'm going to outwork him. And I've just been concentrating on knocking on doors. I haven't tried to seek out really any other endorsements right now.
Thomas, what kind of response are you getting from the voters as you go door to door and introduce yourself and talk about the issues? What kind of response are you getting?
Outstanding. And most of them don't know who their representative is. They still think it's Stan Lee, and they don't know anything about Killian. And I kind of give them a little short synopsis about his voting record and what I would do if I was in office. Voting my conscience and voting my faith. I'm getting a great response. It gives you faith in humanity when you go ahead and talk to people you don't know, but they open up and they listen to you. And most people are very excited that I'm doing this. And again, one thing I always state, I've never been in politics before. And they really like that because they all say we need change. We don't want career politicians. And I explained to them, as I said earlier, I'm not going to vote to try to get reelected. I'm going to vote my conscience, and I will represent the 45th district the right way.
Of course, you're in a majority Republican district. However, it's in Lexington. So the kind of Republican voters there compared to Republican voters in other parts of the state, they differ on issues of concern. How are they responding to social issues like the boys and girls sports teams, boys and girls bathrooms, gender dysphoria, treatment for minors? Where are they on social issues?
I've already covered Jessamine County for the most part. And so I've been working on Fayette County. And the thing is, they can't believe that Killian voted against protecting sports, girls' sports, and couldn't believe that he voted against protecting minors from gender-altering surgeries and puberty blockers. And they're appalled. And once I tell them those two things, and then I explain to them that I'm running to protect the kids and I'm running for school choice, they're very excited. They really are. I've had almost no negative comments about that.
Kentucky is at a crossroads. We can choose to give in to the radical left, or we can choose to engage the culture in a God-honoring way.
I started the Commonwealth Policy Center because I believe that Christians have a responsibility to influence government and society to the glory of God. While the Commonwealth Policy Center's made a significant impact, our work isn't finished. If you'd like to join our movement working for timeless values, then head to our website.
To learn more, go to CommonwealthPolicyCenter.org.
Very good. If you're just joining us, you are tuned in to the Commonwealth Policy Center's Candidate Forum. I'm Richard Nelson, your host, here with Thomas Jefferson. He is the Republican candidate for State House District 45, and he is challenging incumbent Killian Timoney. Thomas, you'd mentioned that you're going to vote your conscience, and you're going to vote the value, how your faith informs you, and the values of the people in the district. You said that you don't care if you get reelected or not. Now, you did sign a state, or a term limit pledge. Tell us about that.
Our founding fathers, I'm named after one of them, never envisioned politicians to be career politicians. They felt like it was a service and a burden to them. And after so many years in Washington, D.C., or even in the state government, that they would eventually go back and take care of their farms, or go back to working full time again. I think we need to bring that vision back. Part of the problems in Frankfurt as well as Washington, D.C. are basically it's a swamp. It really is, for lack of a better word. They have their world unto themselves, and they're not really in touch with with their general public and their districts and their states. So we need to limit how long somebody serves. We need to have that turnover with new ideas, and so that's why I signed that.
How long have you committed to serving? When would you, if you were elected, how many terms would you serve?
2 is probably the sweet spot.
Okay, very good. Thomas, you say on your website that you're in favor of adoption reform. In fact, you and your wife traveled to China to adopt your youngest daughter. And one of the reasons why you did that was because the U.S. adoption process was so complicated, also very expensive. Tell us what you would do to advocate for adoption reform.
Well, one of the reasons why we went ahead and went to China is, I was in the car business 38 years. And at that time, Kentucky made it mandatory, if you wanted to adopt domestically, you had to go to parental classes, and they were only held on Saturdays, and they were 2 or 3 hours. In the car business, Saturdays are very important, and I'm not going to ask my men who worked with me to work on a Saturday where I take off. I said, I just can't do that in good conscience. So international adoption, they allowed you to do it online. And that was one of the reasons why we went ahead and went internationally. I would love to see the adoption process streamlined. It took us 2 years to go ahead and get all the paperwork filed. And that was 2 years that my daughter was in an orphanage. We adopted Sarah when she was 9 years old. But there has to be ways to streamline this and understand that these kids need to get out of these orphanages or these foster homes and into loving homes.
You also say on your website that you're opposed to DEI policies in our universities. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you say this on your website: I support legislation to end DEI in our public colleges and universities. DEI is communist garbage that teaches our students to hate our country and our values. Now, Thomas, there were a couple of DEI bills introduced this last session. One looked like it might get passed into law, Senate Bill 6. It failed. Do you plan to take the lead on this if you're elected in the upcoming election? Do you plan to take the lead on pushing back against DEI in our public universities?
I would be more than glad to. It's our founding, our country was founded on equal opportunity, but not equal outcome. And that's what DEI starts to do, is just they're trying to guarantee equal outcome. And also the diversity part of it is basically racism. It doesn't matter what color you are or what nationality you are. You have to be one of the best. And that's the way life is. And to try to promote that within our state government and or our colleges and our public schools, it hurts us as a country overall and as a state.
Very good. You state also that you are pro Second Amendment. You say, I'm 100% pro gun and will always vote to protect our gun rights. This includes opposition to red flag laws. There was a bill introduced this last session that was a red flag law. It didn't move anywhere. But here's my question to you. Most Kentuckians are pro Second Amendment and they vote that way. But we do have a problem with mass shootings. I think we just came upon the 1 year anniversary of the shooting at the Louisville Bank just a few days ago. And the reality is that there are people who are mentally impaired or they hate their fellow humans and they take guns into areas and they start shooting. How do we respond to mass gun violence? How would you, what is the solution to that?
Number one, it's not the way most murders are done with guns. Mass shootings are huge in the press, but it's not the majority of how people are killed. It's one-on-one shooting. There are rules and regulations and lists in place right now where if somebody's buying a gun, that can be checked to see, like if there's somebody's dishonorably just discharged from the military, that is made aware of, in the gun registry. And so we already have rules and regulate. We already have that in place for the most part. I just don't want to go ahead and to go ahead and limit our normal American Second Amendment rights by this red flag situation. I think it's outrageous and it's slippery slope.
You also mentioned on your website that you're pro-life. You believe that abortion is murder and that it's unjustly taking an innocent human life. Kentucky is abortion-free as far as the trigger bill that went into effect after the Dobbs decision overturned Roe v. Wade, drove out the abortion centers in Kentucky. We've been abortion-free for over a year now. We're one of 14 states, and yet there's a push for exceptions. Now, the pro-life community says if you offer exceptions, even in egregious circumstances, that you open the door to abortion coming back into the state. How do you address that?
Well, you're probably not going to like my answer, okay? But I have two daughters, and I thought about this and prayed about this. How, in my personal opinion, abortion should never be, offered. But if my daughter was brutally raped and there was, and again, I think the exception of rape and incest, you'd have to have charges filed with the police as well as a rape kit done, and it had to be done within the week for the charges and the rape kit being done. Uh, if after she had counseling and she went ahead and saw the ultrasound and she told me, Dad, I can't handle this, as long as it's within 2 or 3 weeks of that rape happening, I would begrudgingly say, I understand. Denise and I talked about it and said, obviously we would even offer to raise the child if she would be willing to bring it to full term. But if my daughter came to me crying, saying, I just can't handle this, it gives me, I can understand those exceptions, but you have to have proof behind those exceptions. You can't just lay it out there and say, I was raped. Okay, you get an abortion. There has to be files charged, have to have a rape kit done, and then hopefully get and definitely get counseling and show them an ultrasound.
Of course, horrible circumstances. We do know that happens. There are sexual assaults that result in conception and awful situation. I couldn't imagine. However, pro-lifers would say that still is a human life. That's a human life that's innocent, didn't do anything in regards to how that life was conceived. But they'll say further, Thomas, uh, that it doesn't really change the fact that there was a rape or there was a sexual assault, and it might even make things worse. I'm just that is a response that's out there. During the last governor's race, of course, that became an issue. Andy Beshear ran an ad of a young woman who was raped by her stepfather, conceived. She did have a miscarriage, but there was also another ad featuring a woman whose mother was raped and her mother chose life, and she shared that she was very grateful that her mother saw her as a human being, and grateful that she had a chance at life. Certainly a difficult situation. The concern I think that Kentucky pro-lifers have is that we don't go back, and any exceptions, rape or incest, could put us on that path of opening up abortion centers. And it, again, they would argue that it does not change the fact of a rape that's happened. I'm going to pivot over to this. There was a bill proposed this last session that would have given the death penalty to rapists, and if it was, I think, rape in the first degree, if it did lead to conception. Have you given thought to that? Is that a way to address it? You make the crime, you punish the perpetrator of an egregious, evil crime, and perhaps that would serve as a greater deterrent. Is that something that you would support?
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, I think the punishment needs to go ahead and be levied to go ahead and add pressure to people before they commit the crime. It would, I think, it would defer how many rapes there are. And the thing is, we're talking about such a small section of the number of rapes that actually make conception. It's very small. We're talking about very, very few cases. So and again, it's something I know it's not what anybody wants to hear that's 100% pro-life. And really, I am, but then I started thinking about my daughters, and I would support them 100%.
I understand. Very, very difficult situation. Thomas, we are running out of time. One more question I want to get in here. A bill passed this last legislative session that required age verification for online porn sites. As a result, this is probably going to drive out online sites like Pornhub and OnlyFans. And is that something you would have supported? Online age? Okay, very good. Very good. Any other issues that we didn't cover? Again, we've got just a minute and a half here. What other issues would you tackle if you were in the legislature?
Richard, I think we covered most of them right now. And again, I will be that conservative voice. I'm not a career politician. I'm a Christian and a father of two. And my wife and I have been married 38 years. So it will be that traditional conservative vote for the 45th District.
Very good. Thomas Jefferson, thank you so much for joining us on CPC's Candidate Forum. Thank you for throwing your hat in the ring and for running for office. God bless you, and best to you.
God bless, Richard. Thank you.